They told you the economy was recovering. They told you that consumer spending was strong, that the job market was resilient, and that the nightmare of the last 3 years was finally over. They lied. Look around you. Do not listen to the press releases coming out of the White House or the sanitized quarterly reports from Wall Street. Look at your local strip mall. Look at the boarded up windows on Main Street. Look at the for-lease signs that are multiplying like a virus in suburbs across this country. We are witnessing the beginning of a retail extinction event that makes 2008 look like a minor correction. We aren't just losing stores. We are losing the infrastructure of the American community. Hundreds of locations, massive household names are locking their doors forever, leaving thousands of workers out in the cold. And the mainstream media, they are calling it a strategic realignment. Before I expose the data they are desperate to hide, I need to address something critical. There are a massive number of copycat channels popping up right now using my face, my voice, and my scripts to push scams in the comments or sell you garbage courses. This is the only official channel. I do not have a WhatsApp group, and I will never ask you for money in the comments. If you want the truth, the unvarnished, scary truth that the algorithms try to suppress, you need to make sure you are subscribed right here to this channel. Hit the bell notification, because when this house of cards finally collapses, I might be the only one left broadcasting the reality of the situation. Let's strip away the stock prices and the GDP numbers for a second and talk about what this actually looks like on the ground. I want to tell you about Linda. I spoke with Linda 3 days ago. She lives just outside of Columbus, Ohio. She's 58 years old, and for the last 22 years, she has been a floor manager at a major department store anchor, one of the big ones that used to define the middle class. Linda did everything right. She showed up early. She worked holidays. She thought she had a pension. She thought she had security. Last Friday, she was called into a generic office, handed a packet of papers by a 25-year-old HR rep from corporate who she had never met, and told the store was underperforming. They gave her 2 weeks, no severance, no bridge to retirement. Linda looked at me and said, "I'm too old to get hired somewhere else, but I'm too young to collect Social Security. What am I supposed to do? Go stock shelves at Amazon for half the pay until my back gives out?" This isn't just about economics. This is a moral crime. Linda represents millions of you. The system used her labor to build their equity, and the second the charts turned red, they cut her loose to save a fraction of a penny on their earnings per share. When a store closes, it's not just a locked door. It is a family devastated. It is a mortgage that won't get paid. It is a community losing its heartbeat. And Linda is just the first domino in a line that stretches all the way to the horizon. So why is this happening? Why now? If you listen to the CEOs of Target, Walmart, or Walgreens, they'll use a lot of fancy words. They talk about optimizing their footprint or navigating macroeconomic headwinds. Translation: we are broke, we are being robbed blind, and you are the ones paying for it. Let's look at the hard data, the stuff they bury in the footnotes of their 10K filings. We are seeing a retail death spiral driven by a toxic cocktail of three things: interest rates, organized crime, and bureaucratic incompetence. First, let's talk about the debt. For 15 years, these companies expanded using cheap money. The Federal Reserve kept interest rates at near zero, allowing these massive chains to open stores in locations that never actually made a profit. They were running on debt fumes. Now, the Fed has hiked rates. The cost of borrowing has skyrocketed. These companies have billions in corporate debt coming due in 2024 and 2025. They cannot refinance it. When a company like Rite Aid or Bed Bath & Beyond files for Chapter 11, or when Macy's announces they are closing 150 stores, it is because the bill has finally come due. They are trimming the fat, but the fat is your job. Then there is the issue nobody wants to talk about honestly: shrinkage. That's the corporate term. Translation: rampant, unpunished theft. According to the National Retail Federation, shrink cost the industry $112 billion last year. But it's not just teenagers stealing candy. We are talking about organized retail crime rings sweeping shelves clean. Why? Because of legislation like Prop 47 in California or similar soft on-crime policies in New York and Illinois, where stealing less than $950 is essentially treated like a parking ticket. Companies are not charities. If a store in downtown San Francisco or Chicago is losing 20% of its inventory to theft and spending another 10% on armed guards, and the local district attorney refuses to prosecute the thieves, the math doesn't work. The CEO sits in a boardroom in New York, looks at a spreadsheet, and sees that store number 405 is bleeding cash. They click delete. But it goes deeper. Look at the bureaucratic red tape. We have new labor laws like California's AB 1228 pushing fast food wages to $20 an hour. Now, I am all for people making a living wage, don't get me wrong. But when you mandate a massive wage hike overnight without addressing the skyrocketing cost of rent, utilities, and insurance, you force small business owners and franchise operators into a corner. They have two choices: raise prices until customers stop coming or shut down. They are choosing to shut down. We are seeing major pharmacy chains closing hundreds of locations. Dollar Tree and Family Dollar closing 1,000 stores. Macy's closing 150. The data shows that retail bankruptcy filings are surging at the fastest rate since the pandemic. And unlike 2020, there is no government stimulus check coming to save them. There is no PPP loan forgiveness. This is a cold, hard liquidation of the American retail landscape. The government tells you inflation is down to 3%. Translation: prices are still rising, just slightly slower than the skyrocketing pace that already destroyed your savings. Because costs are still high, consumers, you and me, have stopped buying discretionary items. We are buying food and gas. We aren't buying patio furniture or new clothes. Retailers are sitting on massive piles of inventory nobody wants in stores they can't afford to heat, paying interest on loans they can't afford to service. It is a mathematical impossibility for them to survive. Now, some of you might be thinking, who cares if a few big box stores close? I shop online anyway. If that's what you're thinking, you are missing the much bigger, much more terrifying picture. This isn't just about where you buy your socks. This is about the collapse of commercial real estate, CRE, and that is what will destroy your local economy. Think about the ecosystem of a shopping center. When the anchor store, say a Macy's or a massive cinema, closes down, it triggers what leases call co-tenancy clauses. Translation: if the big guy leaves, the little guys legally get to pay less rent or break their leases and leave too. Suddenly, a mall that was 90% full is 40% full. The landlord, usually a massive investment firm or a pension fund, stops receiving rent revenue. But the landlord still has to pay the mortgage to the bank. When the revenue drops below the mortgage payment, the landlord defaults. They hand the keys back to the bank. Now the bank is holding a dead asset. A rotting mall is worth nothing. And who holds these loans? It's not JP Morgan or Bank of America. It's the regional banks. The small to mid-sized banks in your town. They are overexposed to commercial real estate. When these malls fail, the banks fail. When the banks fail, credit for everything freezes. But the ripple effect goes even further. It hits your city's budget. Commercial property taxes are the lifeblood of local governments. They pay for your police, your fire department, your schools, and your road maintenance. When that mall closes, its value plummets. The tax revenue evaporates. So what does the city do? They have two choices. They either raise your property taxes to make up the difference, squeezing you even harder, or they cut services. They lay off cops. They stop fixing potholes. And this creates the doom loop. The store closes, the tax base drops, services get cut, crime goes up, so more stores close because the area is unsafe. It spreads. It starts in the city centers. We've seen it in downtown San Francisco, St. Louis, Portland. But it moves outward. It creeps into the suburbs. The blight is contagious. If you live in a suburb that relies on a massive retail tax base to keep your property taxes low, you are in the crosshairs. The contagion doesn't care about your zip code. It follows the money, and the money is leaving. Where does this go from here? I have crunched the numbers, looked at the debt maturity walls, and analyzed the consumer credit default rates. I see three scenarios playing out over the next 18 to 24 months. Remember, these are not predictions. These are possibilities grounded in data. In this scenario, the Federal Reserve panics and slashes interest rates aggressively within the next 3 months. Inflation somehow doesn't spike back up, which is unlikely, and consumer spending stabilizes. The closures continue, but they are orderly. We lose maybe 2,000 stores nationwide, but the system holds. The zombie companies limp along for another year or two. I give this a 10% probability. The damage is already too deep. This is the most likely outcome. We enter a period of prolonged stagflation. The retail sector consolidates into a monopoly. The middle-tier stores, the places you actually like to shop, die out. We are left with only two options: the ultra-luxury brands for the rich and the dollar stores and Amazon for the rest of us. The middle class loses all variety and purchasing power. Shopping malls become ghost towns or get converted into fulfillment centers, meaning your local mall turns into a warehouse with trucks running 24/7. Jobs shift from retail interaction to box packing, with lower wages and worse conditions. This is a slow, painful grind downward. This is the scenario the government is terrified of. The wave of store closures triggers a massive default in the commercial mortgage-backed securities market. This causes a liquidity crisis in regional banking. Banks stop lending to everyone, small businesses, home buyers, everyone. Unemployment spikes to 8% or 9% as the retail layoffs bleed into construction and logistics. We see widespread municipal bankruptcies because cities lose their tax revenue. We are talking about vast swathes of American suburbia turning into blighted, unserviceable zones. It's a total economic seizure where cash is king and assets are worthless. The scary part? We are currently trending closer to scenario 3 than scenario 1. The data regarding credit card delinquencies is flashing red. You are maxed out. The stores know it. That is why they are packing up. We are watching the dismantling of the consumer economy in real time. This isn't just about buying clothes. It's about the disintegration of the spaces where we gather, work, and build our communities. The retail apocalypse isn't coming. It is here. It is parked in the empty lot of your local Bed Bath & Beyond. I want to know what you are seeing on the ground because the news won't report it. What is closing in your town? Are you seeing the for lease signs? Are you seeing the prices go up while the service disappears? Go to the comments section right now and tell me your story. Be the journalist the mainstream media refuses to be. If you want to stay ahead of this collapse, if you want to know how to protect your family when the next domino falls, you need to subscribe to this channel. Like this video to help trigger the algorithm so we can wake more people up. Prepare yourselves. The lights are going out.